Replacement theology is both right and wrong. What do I mean by that? It's wrong in the sense that the church has fully and permanently replaced ethnic national Israel of the flesh. No, that's impossible. We can't do that. I can't, I cannot replace any more than I can replace a British born person. I can't replace a Jew, a born Jew. That's just physically impossible. If they mean spiritually, also no, we haven't replaced Jews in a spiritual sense either. Because remember, Paul in that chapter, very important, Romans 11, he says the thing supporting it is still Jewish, still Hebrew. The root, the thing supporting this new, what I call a new olive tree, is still Hebraic, is still Jewish in its essence. So it's not, to me, it's not, we can't physically replace it, and we don't really spiritually replace it. But it is right that God has created a new olive, what I call a new olive tree. It's like the international Israel of God, made up of Jew and Gentile in Romans 11. So it is right in that sense that there is this new creation, this new body of believers, the saints, the people of God. Yes, it is a new community because now it's access through the blood of Christ, right? Access through the Messiah and his law. And by his law, I mean, mainly the Sermon on the Mount. Matthew chapter 5 to chapter 7, but obviously later on what he's teaching to Paul here. That's all not the law of Christ, by the way. Christians, once again, Christians are not lawless. We're bound by the law of Christ, mainly Matthew 5 to 7, known as the Sermon on the Mount. And what by the laws and precepts and teachings and commandments given by his apostles, mainly Paul, later on. That's all law, folks. I know law has a negative connotation, but obviously we mean it in the sense of simple teaching of obedience. Do this and do that, right? Note that there will be a saved remnant of the ethnic national Israel of the flesh, apostles in the age to come. Remember that famous text? He will make them head of the tribes of Israel. So the subject is present day, or what Paul calls blinded, national ethnic Israel of the flesh. And we know why they're blinded. Paul calls them, they're blind because they accept their own Messiah, right? So they're blinded in that way. In verse 15, he talks about the dead coming back to life. In a way they forfeited because they rejected Messiah. So, and it's by faith, right? It's by faith all the time. It's not by all the requirements of Torah. So I call that contra Calvin, obviously. So there's that's got an article. Mm-hmm. The ifs
of Christianity.
The ifs of Christianity. And verse 26, all does not equal all Jews, whether they believe or not. All, again, I'm interpreting this as the Jew-Gentile Israel of God. Will all Israel be saved? So some interpret that as Jews, right? So that must mean all Jews are saved. Well, Robertson is in his book, Israel of God, says this.
Does Paul's declaration that all Israel shall be saved then mean that someday every living Israelite will come to salvation? God has never obligated himself to save every single individual in any group of people. If this pattern were changed in the future, it would introduce a principle foreign to all of God's previous redemptive activity, including activity under the gracious new covenant. But if it's nonetheless true that all those identified with Judaism will one day be saved, should the Christian's perspective on evangelism be changed? Should he then be encouraged to consider Judaism as an alternative? The absurdity of such a suggestion should be obvious.
So this is against the pro-Israel crowd out there, the Zionists. Even us, whom he also called, not only from the Jews, but also from the Gentiles, as he says in Hosea, I will call them my people who are not my people. So further refinement then. 1 Peter 2, you, the church, are a chosen people. Paul quotes Isaiah 43, a royal priesthood,